Gold versus Bitcoin, the battle that everyone talks about. Let's mine deep as to why the gold standard failed and why the Bitcoin standard won't. RFK announced that he plans to back the US dollar with Bitcoin. And last week, BRICS announced that the gold standard is returning. Yeah, you heard that right. They, alongside over 41 countries, may be preparing to return to the gold standard. That's why China and Russia have been stacking gold for about 10 to 20 years. The gold standard dominated the globe between 1871 and 1914. This doesn't actually mean that they're going back to trading with heavy gold coins for every tiny thing that they buy. How could you pay for your morning coffee with the gold coin? You can't. So instead, imagine going to a system where the money in your wallet was like a golden ticket, a certificate backed by actual gold. You could walk into a central bank, hand over this golden ticket, and bam, you got yourself a specific quantity of gold. So if you had $10, you could go to the bank and get $10 worth of gold. For context, back then, when the US dollar was backed by gold, what is worth $1 in 1914 is worth $30.50 today. So if the economy was backed by hard money then, why did it fail? First of all, gold had to be held in central banks, and we had to trust that they actually had the amount that they reported. So the governments, they couldn't resist the temptation to print more money than they held in their gold reserves. This quickly led to inflation, economic instability, and ultimately the abandonment of the gold standard and the introduction of the fiat era, the one we are currently living in. Now there's Bitcoin. And with RFK already making promises to have the dollar be directly linked to Bitcoin, that would mean that the US would be entering the Bitcoin standard.
The Kennedy administration will begin to back the US dollar with real finite assets such as gold, silver, platinum, and Bitcoin, which is the world's hardest liquid asset.
The Bitcoin standard is a revolutionary concept introduced by Saifedean Ammous in his book, The Bitcoin Standard. And for those still unfamiliar, Bitcoin is a decentralized digital currency that operates on a peer-to-peer network called the blockchain.
One of the coolest things about Bitcoin, in my opinion, and one of the biggest differences with gold is we built Bitcoin. Humans engineered it to be perfect for as far as we've understood money. Gold, we found gold, and we decided that it was the best of all the things we found compared to a shark tooth or to beads in the sand or to precious metals we found. But Bitcoin we were able to engineer to be digital and bare, and so that we can custody it.
Bitcoin is unlike anything that we've ever seen before. It's decentralized, meaning no single authority controls it. It's transparent, with every transaction recorded on the blockchain for everyone to see. And most importantly, it's scarce. So RFK is in the right mentality, backing the US with Bitcoin. Here's why. Gold actually inflates on average 1 to 2% a year. Meanwhile, there will only ever be a limited supply of 21 million Bitcoins. Gold is hard to move around, while Bitcoin can be held in the palm of your hand and can be transferred electronically in minutes. Bitcoin is durable, divisible, portable, and most importantly, it can't be manipulated by governments. Bitcoin gives the power back to the people, allowing them to store and transfer value without relying on centralized authorities. So let's say BRICS successfully launches a gold-backed currency. Inevitably, the gold must be stored somewhere. But in which country? China, Russia, India, South Africa? Would they need to be constantly balancing the amount between countries by physically moving the gold around the world? If so, what happens if some gets lost in transit? Who verifies that the gold is actually gold and not a counterfeit? So there are many people that you're gonna need to trust in this scenario, but why do that when we have a technology like Bitcoin, totally transparent? Everyone can see how much Bitcoin is in any Bitcoin address at any given time. No need to trust, you can just simply verify. So if RFK does link the US dollar with Bitcoin, then that would get rid of inflation. That would take the power away from the government to actually manipulate the economy and create a stable coin, keeping and maintaining the US dollar dominance. So if RFK does get elected, does that mean that we're entering the Bitcoin standard in 2024? Don't leave. Let's go backstage with Saifedean Ammous. So how does it feel to have orange-pilled so many people?
I like it. I like Bitcoin, obviously, and I like to do everything I can to help Bitcoin. And it just makes me feel really good when people tell me my book helped orange pill them.
Who orange-pilled you? Like, who made Bitcoin make sense?
Unfortunately, I was a bit of a slow learner. I heard about Bitcoin pretty early, but I just, I'm an academic. So obviously, as you see with most academics and most university professors, they're very good at dismissing Bitcoin and not understanding it and coming up with reasons for why it doesn't work. And so I was one of those idiots for a very long time. 2-3 years of just completely dismissing it and just thinking, oh, well, obviously the government is going to shut it down. Obviously it's going to get hacked. Obviously, and all of these, very confident assertions were being made without me reading the white paper or reading anything about the software and how it works. And then, I ate the humble pie. And I watched Bitcoin go from like around $1 to $1,000, where I'm just confident that it's going to get destroyed by governments. And then, around 2013, 2014 is when I first heard about the concept of proof of work. Then it struck me that, oh, wait, you can't just make this. Like, it's not just software. You can't just click a few buttons and then you make another Bitcoin. Because I was, an economist who was from a gold perspective. I was a gold bug. Then it hit me, oh, wait. You actually have to spend money in order to make a Bitcoin. Then I started to pay attention to it. So I would say most influential probably in my orange pilling were the Satoshi Nakamoto Institute, particularly Pierre Rochard and Michael Goldstein. They have a lot of writings on the internet. They wrote them in 2012, 2013, 2014. I think they've stood the test of time very, very, very well. You could argue that my book is just taking their ideas and expanding upon them and writing it in a more elaborate way.
Well, now that you've done like a full-on deep dive and you probably have a PhD in Bitcoin, if you were to have dinner with Satoshi Nakamoto, one-on-one, what would you ask?
I'd like to know what his thoughts are on monetary economics. Because initially, everybody sees in Bitcoin what they want to see. My initial idea was that this is clearly somebody like me, an Austrian economist. He was probably a gold bug, and he figured out that software was the solution that would allow us to have a form of money that is not controlled by the government. But as I studied Bitcoin more, as I studied his writings more, I don't think he studied Austrian economics. I don't think he was very familiar with monetary economics and the debates of monetary economics. I think he was an excellent software engineer. He thought of the problem of money from first principles. If a smart person were to design a monetary system from scratch, I think a smart engineer would come up with Bitcoin.
And now, a quick recap of the week. The Federal Reserve has gone live with its new instant payment system called the FEDNOW. It's supposed to be available 24/7, 365 days a year. They are launching with 41 banks and 15 service providers certified to use the system. But here's the catch. Even though it is now live, it might take months or years for customers to be able to use the service. While in California, they are passing the Digital Financial Assets Law. This bill would regulate the digital financial asset businesses starting on January 1st, 2025. The law would prohibit engaging in these types of businesses without a license. No license, no business. Kuwait has prohibited the use of crypto for payments and placed an absolute ban on all digital asset mining, forbidding the recognition of crypto as a decentralized currency. Meanwhile, Greenpeace is continuing its campaign to villainize Bitcoin, while MIT researchers acknowledge the grid balancing and methane mitigation benefits of Bitcoin mining in a new paper.